La prevención del abuso sexual es la herramienta para contrarrestar el incremento de esta forma de violencia que trae problemas complejos, no solo para la víctima, sino también para su familia. En el siguiente reportaje exploramos algunos puntos educativos que pueden ser considerados por cada padre de familia.
Child sexual abuse is any time a child is forced to do something of a sexual nature. And by forced, it can be any type of coercion. Sometimes we think of force as someone attacking someone. But oftentimes child sexual abuse can be very manipulative. So there's not force in that way that we perceive it. But a child is manipulated or made to do something of a sexual nature by someone, either an adult or an older child or someone who has power over them. There are times where it is just sexual abuse, or there are times where there are other types of abuse as well. Physical abuse, emotional abuse can happen as well. This is probably one of the least known parts about sexual abuse is parents are very good about teaching their kids to stay away from strangers. Stranger danger, don't go by strangers, don't get into a strange car. But the vast majority, almost 90% of sexual abuse is committed by someone the child knows, and quite often by someone the child trusts and the family trusts. Sexual abuse can happen anywhere, but where it happens quite a bit is actually in the person's home, or the child's home, or the perpetrator's home, or somewhere basically where they have an opportunity to be isolated. And that's one of the things we talk about with preventing child sexual abuse is not allowing your child to be somewhere where they're isolated one-on-one with another adult. What perpetrators do is they get their victim to trust them, and they can do that in a variety of ways. They can offer to do things with them. Oftentimes it's things maybe their parents wouldn't do or couldn't do, you know, come over to my house and we'll play, or let's go do this. And it's a slow process. It's called grooming. And what the perpetrators do is they slowly groom the child and go about it in a way that at first there's nothing wrong with it. They go over and play, gee, that's fun, or we go do this, gee, that's fun. And then what can happen is the behavior escalates. And then the child is confused. Well, this person's touching me, I don't like this, but I like everything else they did, so I'm going to keep coming. And I'm not going to tell anyone. And then it can escalate all the way up to sexual abuse. The majority of kids do not report sexual abuse for some of the reasons we already talked about. It's an adult, they're scared, they don't think anyone is going to believe them. Child sexual abuse doesn't often have physical signs. If it does, it can be discharge in the underwear, or blood, or something like that, bruises. Most often what parents might see is a behavioral change, sometimes a regression going back to things that they used to do as a child. For example, a child that was potty trained is now having accidents all the time. Or anger. There's a lot of anger there. They're suddenly angry. Or they just don't want to go someplace that they used to like to go. Maybe they used to love going to Coach Joe's or Aunt Susie's, and now they just don't want to. Just looking for those small signs that, you know, maybe something's off. And the other key is to make sure you continually discuss this with your child. Make it an open topic. Say that if someone ever touches you or makes you feel uncomfortable, please tell me. Or if you're not comfortable telling me as your parent, make sure you tell an adult so that someone knows. The key is open communication. Make sure you're talking about these things. What is appropriate, what's not appropriate, that your body is your own. No one has the right to touch you. No one has the right to make you feel uncomfortable. If any of that happens, let me know and we'll deal with it. We'll do something about that. The parent's reaction is very key because quite often children who have been sexually abused will say something just to see how the parents react. And if the parents react poorly or they're very upset and it scares the child, so the child will back off and say, oh, no, I was kidding, nothing happened. The main thing to do is stay calm. It's not up to the parents to find out everything or to grill the child, interview the child, ask open-ended questions. Can you tell me more about that? What happened? And let the child tell their story. Be quiet and let them tell. And then once you have the story, it's important to report either to Child Protective Services or law enforcement. Child sexual abuse happens to both boys and girls. The estimates are anywhere between 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 7 boys will be sexually abused before their 18th birthday. Preventing child sexual abuse truly is an adult's job, and some of the things that you can do is, number one, learn the facts. Knowing that most kids are abused by someone they know, that it's not just stranger danger. Talking to your kids about sexual abuse and their bodies and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, keeping those discussions going. Acting on suspicions. If you think something's not right, act on it. Oftentimes we hear after an abuse case has come out, people will go, well, I thought something was funny, but I really didn't want to say anything. It's important that we as adults step forward and say something. We're conscious about sexual abuse, we know it happens, and we're willing to report it, and we talk about it with our kids. If there's any indication, please act on suspicions and talk to your kids. Keep that communication open. Let them know they can tell you about those things. Or tell someone. Just make sure that they're out there and they're safe. And it's our job as adults to try not to put them in situations where something could happen to them.
El abuso infantil puede ser físico, con señales visibles como rasguños, moretones u otras señales de maltrato, incluyendo el abuso sexual, emocional y la desatención, es decir, no proveerle al niño o niña los cuidados básicos como comida, ropa, cuidados o simplemente la supervisión. Como padre, esté alerta, minimice la oportunidad, hable con sus hijos sobre el tema, haga un plan de acción, no solo por sus hijos, sino por cualquier otro niño que usted conozca. Y si sospecha o sabe que un niño o niña está siendo objeto de maltrato, actúe. El abuso sexual es un crimen. Reporte de inmediato llamando al 911 o a la línea gratuita al 1-800-4LIGHT o al National Child Abuse Hotline al 1-800-4A-CHILD. Usted no solo salvará a sus hijos, sino a muchos otros. Recuerde que un depredador sexual siempre tiene múltiples víctimas.